Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, May 25th, 2023. I've seen a couple of news stories around streaming services lately that have started to get me wondering about where we're going to end up in, say, 5 to 10 years. And I'm not making any real kind of prediction here, but I'm just wondering about something kind of a larger context. So let me just give you a rundown of some of the stories that have kind of contributed to this wondering that's going on in my head. And these have all been within the last month or so, something like that. HBO Max, of course, now is just Max. That is a consolidation of the Discovery streaming service and the old HBO. Well, there's been a number of HBO streaming services, which, of course, came with a price increase, along with a lot of content that most people who were subscribed to HBO Max, like I used to be until this happened, didn't really want it all and would have been happy just sticking with what we had. You had an announcement that has been somewhat reversed by Disney that they are going to be pulling a number of their titles off of the Disney Plus streaming services. Now, as far as I am aware, most, if not all of those titles are not available in a physical release. But I could be wrong. I haven't checked them all. But I don't think, certainly not all of them. Netflix is now enacting an $8 a month password sharing tier for their service if you want to share Netflix with anybody that's not in your household, something that the company had encouraged back when it was making a ton of money and just wanted to get as many people on board as possible and say, hey, look how many people are watching our shows. But now that the dollars are getting a little tighter, they've suddenly decided that that's a bad thing and it's hurting their bottom line and they just can't do it anymore. And Paramount Plus is incorporating Showtime into their offering, which, you guessed it, is coming along with a $1 or $2 price increase depending on which tier you have of the service. And so when you look at all this, and this is kind of a steady trend, almost every one of these services has increased its price. Almost all of them. You are seeing a large, I think, I shouldn't say large. Netflix, as being one of the larger streamers cracking down on password sharing, will no doubt spread to others if it's not already happening and in the works. And so prices keep going up for all this stuff. Along with that, there is, of course, increasing cost to produce all these shows, which has resulted right now in a writer's strike that's going on because the writers for a lot of these streaming shows cannot make enough money to live. And one of the reasons that people think Disney is pulling some of these series down from their streaming service isn't necessarily because no one's watching them. It's because they don't want to pay people for the possibility of people watching them, because there's a whole bunch of back-end stuff to that too. And so it makes me wonder where we're going to be in terms of streaming, because on top of all this is ongoing consolidation within these different streaming services. So, as some of these services struggle and aren't able to make enough money, they will inevitably be gobbled up by others. So you could conceivably at some point, as crazy as it sounds right now, see something like Netflix or Paramount's streaming service or their entire media catalog being bought up by somebody like Apple or Amazon or whoever. Maybe there'll be a new one that comes in with a bunch of money. And so if the prices keep going up, and of course, this is all alongside of the decreasing prevalence of physical media in general, that there just isn't as much stuff put out in physical as there used to be. And part of that is because consumer demand is down. I'm not putting this all on the streaming services. People are very happy with the convenience of streaming because it has been relatively cheap and plentiful up to this point. But what happens if that landscape starts shifting, which I would argue it already is? Now, some people aren't going to care, but I think you're going to find, because there's a lot of people too who do the whole, I subscribe for a month and I watch my stuff and then I cancel it. And that's fine, except I guarantee that at some point, some of these services are going to say you can't subscribe for a month now. You have to subscribe for 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. And they're just going to stick you with that. And then what happens? Not to mention, who wants to set a calendar where they have to make sure, okay, I've subscribed to these 3, but only canceled these 2 because the timing of the month where it's not overlapping. So I have to remember this week that on Monday and Thursday I have to cancel this one and that one. I mean, it's just lunacy. Again, it doesn't feel like any of this is really tenable in the long run, which is not for me saying that streaming will go away. But what I wonder is if we're going to end up in somewhat of an entertainment desert where there's only going to be a couple of companies making only the shows they know are guaranteed hits, which doesn't mean they're going to be very good. And that's kind of it. I don't know. I just don't know if what's going on now can really work in the long run. But I'd be curious for those listening. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm overanalyzing this stuff. Maybe I'm seeing something that isn't there. I'm always willing to say I'm wrong about something. Do you think this can last? Can it keep going like this? Let me know later.